to unmute and to put your camera on by the Master of Ceremonies later. But it's wonderful to be here with many of you this morning. It has been a very difficult year for all of us, but particularly for the most vulnerable groups. And I think this year in particular, it's very appropriate that we award those who are closest to the community. The voluntary and community sector have played a vital role in providing services, in accessing those groups that are hard to reach, in supporting people at that very local level. They've also played a key role in supporting public agencies and departments in accessing local people within local communities. So we're delighted to be able to host these awards and provide a WHO award, which is quite a prestigious award, to those of you who have played a critical role. The agenda today is, following a couple of minutes, I will introduce the Master of Ceremonies, but we also have, who will host the awards ceremony, outline those who have been commended and who the winner is. We have also invited Denise Cahill, who's a very good friend and Healthy City colleague from Cork, who will also speak a little bit about the experience of communities during COVID in Cork. We've actually just finished a 3-day conference with the World Health Organization in Europe and heard of many experiences across Europe where the local community and voluntary sector played a key role in supporting groups across their cities. Following Denise, we will then have Danny Cooper. Danny actually was awarded the Explorer Award last year, and for those of you who maybe don't know what the Explorer Award is, it is an award that we offer to people who live and work in Belfast to visit another healthy city, really as a study visit to find out how that city is addressing a particular issue. And Danny's interest was in wheelchair sports and particularly in basketball. So we look forward to that, to Danny outlining that. But also just to say at this stage, there is an opportunity for you. We're hoping that to launch the Explorer Award again in March 21, in the hope that by September or October of 21, there will be some normality across Europe and you'll be able to visit another healthy city. Danny visited actually Utrecht in the Netherlands and Hanover in Germany. And then we will close with our chair, Dr. David Stewart. So I now want to give a very warm welcome to our Master of Ceremonies for this morning's session, Brendan Mulgrew, who's Managing Director of MW Advocate.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thanks for that welcome, and welcome everybody to what for us in Belfast Healthy Cities it's a milestone day every year where we get to acknowledge and to celebrate the work that's going on right across Belfast to make this city that we all share a healthier city for all who live here. And usually at this time of this event, we're ushering you in from your tea and coffee and scones and trying to get everyone to sit down and so to get the show on the road. So I hope you've all got maybe a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, sitting at home or in your offices. And of course, we all hope above everything else that this time next year, we will all be under one roof again. But in the meantime, we're in the very capable hands of our AV experts who will keep us all right. And I would just re-emphasize, as Jonah said, please keep your microphones and your cameras off for the time being. And anyone who is going to help us to promote this morning's event, keep in mind as well, we have some social media guidelines. If you're going to include at Healthy Belfast in any of your tweets or social media, on our hashtag is Healthy Belfast. So why not spread the word about what we're all about today and help us to celebrate the great work that's going on across our city. And the reason why we do this event every year, the Belfast Healthy Cities Awards recognize the work undertaken by organisations from all sectors, right across the private sector, the third sector, community groups, charities, public sector as well, all aimed at improving the health and the well-being of the people of Belfast. And we know that this year has been very challenging. And that's why we shifted the emphasis of the awards to look at COVID and how organisations, individuals and groups have tried to deal with and to battle the challenges which COVID brought about as well. We had a great response, as we always do every year. In fact, something which says a lot to us was the number of entries we had in the mental well-being category. So we've actually split that category into two. So we have a family and young people mental well-being, as well as our more general mental well-being category. And because we want to recognize as many organizations as possible. And I want to thank as well, on behalf of Belfast Healthy Cities, our judging panels, made up of board members and staff members of Belfast Healthy Cities. And if you bear with me, I'm going to give each of them a little nod. So they were Karen Casson from Ulster University, Brian Nelson from the Belfast Health and Social Care Trust, Alistair Beggs from the Department for Infrastructure, Maureen Mawhinney from the Northern Ireland Housing Executive, Anne McCusker, Caroline Wilson, Caroline Scott, all of whom are part of the great Belfast Healthy Cities team. Before we move into the first of our categories, I just want to say that as we go through each category, I'm going to read out the names of the organizations who were shortlisted. We're then going to see a brief video so that everyone gets to know what everyone's about this morning. So we've recorded some videos from each of our shortlisted projects as well. And now we move into announcing the winners and the highly commended. And if any of the winners out there, given that it's not usual that we would offer people a chance to say a few words, but normally we would bring you up to the front of the stage. We might have the Lord Mayor here, or David Stewart, or Joan, and we get your photograph taken, and we try and make a bit of a fuss. So because we're not able to do that this year, you might want to say a few words on behalf of your organisation after you're announced as the winning project. If that's the case, please use the raise your hand signal. That's part of the Zoom. I think it's along the bottom of your screen sitting at home. And guided by our AV experts, we bring you in for a few minutes, for a few seconds, I should emphasize, not a few minutes. So we're going to move on, folks, to our first category, which is mental well-being. And we know that prior to COVID, there was a lot of work being undertaken to address the stigma which surrounds mental health. And of course, the impact of lockdown, the pandemic, has only increased the profile and indeed the struggles that some people have with their mental health. So this category looked for projects which have brought about better mental well-being outcomes and which have helped to develop physical and social activities across the community to engage and to improve mental well-being, and with particular emphasis on what you might call hard to reach groups. That might be the elderly, people who live alone, where social isolation can have a disproportionate effect, and as well as children and young people, never to be forgotten. So our shortlisted nominees in the mental wellbeing category, firstly, was the Special Olympics Ulster for their Together at Home programme. So let's have a little look at their video.
I'm Shona Pride and I'm from Belfast Cranes Special Olympics Club. So Special Olympics is a worldwide organisation. Our regional branch is Special Olympics Ulster, and within Special Olympics Ulster there are 9 clubs in Belfast, and Belfast Cranes Special Olympics Club is one. It's just stopped overnight. We were planning on going to training on the Wednesday, and I think on the Tuesday that was it. We were in lockdown. So what Special Olympics Ulster, Special Olympics Ireland did was they created a 10-week Together at Home program to try and maintain connection amongst the athletes and their clubs, and also to try and maintain their mental health and keep people going throughout the lockdown. So Special Olympics Together at Home programme was mainly run virtually on the internet, and we knew that some of our athletes might not have access to the internet, and we also knew that just some of our athletes might not be able to engage, sit down, have the concentration to engage with things virtually. So what we did was we wanted to make it a bit more personal, a bit more local as well, for them to see familiar faces and for them to engage with people that they knew in their club.
What's next for the Special Olympics Ulster now?
Yeah, so back to training. Special Olympics run a programme all year round, and has training, has leagues, has individual events for people to be training towards over a 4-year programme as well. There's always something coming up. So we're very, very keen to get back to seeing our athletes face to face.
That's the Special Olympics Ulster and their Together at Home programme. The aim of the programme was to allow athletes to stay connected in a time of lockdown, to take part in activities, to stay physically fit and to stay connected mentally and emotionally. And the programme had 4 pillars: strong minds, health promotion, sport and fitness in young athletes, and they had a Fun Friday challenge. And this is our version of our Fun Friday Challenge, these awards here this morning. So the judging panel were very impressed with the Special Olympics Ulster. They said that this was a highly innovative programme which demonstrated a high level user engagement in a wide range of activities. And the programme helped participants to develop a wide range of skills relating to their physical and their mental well-being, as well, of course, as IT skills. Good evidence and evaluation showed clear user benefits throughout. Our second shortlisted organisation in the mental well-being category is Groundwork NI and their Grow Boxes programme. Let's have a look.
My name is Cara Cash-Marley and I'm Chief Executive of Groundwork Northern Ireland. Groundwork is a community development and regeneration charity. We've been delivering services for about 30 years in Northern Ireland, so our work is all about making places and lives better, and a lot of that's done from the ground up. Of course, like everybody else, we were impacted enormously by COVID-19's arrival earlier this year. One of the sharpest impacts it had for us was we had to close our community garden spaces. We have 4 of those in the city. So we had to think very quickly about how we could continue to have impact and continue to reach people whilst everyone was at home. And we came up with this idea, our community gardener Heather came up with this idea of a grow box. So you basically bring the community garden to the person's home and you don't need to have a garden to grow what we would provide. So I think people were surprised many times when they received them, because the community group would have been saying to us, these people are isolated, could we work with you to get some boxes out of them? So a pleasant surprise, but also something to keep them going, something to do every day was to tend to this little box. So it kept people going, kept them motivated. There was a feeling of connection and then a feeling of some sort of success when the things actually grow and you can look at a beautiful sunflower in your garden that you've grown from a seed in your grow box and then you move it out, or you're eating something that you have grown. The feedback that we get is that there are mental health benefits, there are physical health benefits, and also there's a feeling of being connected to other people whilst we were physically not connected, because lots of people were trialing the boxes at the same time. So nearly 2,000 of them go out. So there was a shared experience whilst we weren't together.
I think that video sums up very well the elements of that programme, which help people to ease the burden of isolation, to improve the mental health of participants, and to bring the outside world indoors without the need for garden access. And it meant that everyone could take part, and to increase the access to healthy food sources, very importantly as well. The judges were very impressed with how quickly Groundwork adapted to the challenge of COVID. And in fact, they expanded their outreach so that over 1,600 of the grow boxes were distributed. And the programme, the judges said, is sustainable beyond COVID-19 and does continue to meet the aim for improving mental health and well-being. So well done, Groundwork NI. Our third shortlisted project in the mental well-being category is Engage with Age for their COVID response. And let's have a look at that, the work that they do.
I'm Anne Green and I'm a trustee with Engage with Age. Engage with Age enables older people to live happier, healthier and more connected lives. And older people are very often at the front of this. Engage with Age work is mostly group work, but with the pandemic we had to find another way of working with people, particularly those who weren't on the internet. Within 8 days of lockdown, Engage with Age produced a newspaper called the PAL Gazette, which was posted to over 500 and within weeks had a reach of over 1,500 people. We've walked, we've danced, we've everything, we've played bingo.
The feedback from the people you've reached out to and the people you've worked with, how has it helped them over this very strange period?
It's helped them greatly because you do get very lonely. You get very lonely and there's always somebody here you can talk to. If they really realise maybe how much Engage with Age does for them, because they haven't other supports and they've had the support of Engage with Age. And I wouldn't have been here in it for about 15 years if it wasn't a great organisation.
What a terrific message at the end of that video. And we know that the majority of the work undertaken by Engage with Age is running activities with older people in groups. And last year they told us they undertook 700 activities with 11,000 attendees. That is really making a difference. And the judges were very impressed with the programme of activities which are rolled out to keep people informed, to keep them active, to keep them connected, and to keep them entertained as well during the pandemic. That's important too. And a variety of methods were used to provide very practical information as well as making it fun. And that's how they kept people engaged. That's all of our shortlisted projects in the mental wellbeing category. And the judges, who had a very difficult decision to take, have decided that in a highly commended category falls the Special Olympics Ulster and Groundwork NI, and that the overall winner of the Mental Wellbeing Category Award is Engage with Age for their COVID response. So well done, Engage with Age. Is there anyone from Engage with Age who wants to say anything at all?
Yes, if I'm
Yes.
allowed to turn my video on, it's Eamon Quinn here, I'm
Okay,
the Director
Eamon.
of Engage with Age. And just to say thank you very much for recognising this work. The work's been done by a team here, Lawrence, John, Kathy, Lois, Martin and Grace and myself, but we are inspired by the support we get from the board, but also people such as Peter, who runs the dance group, from Ruth, who coordinates the Words Alive writing group, and from the energy and the enthusiasm that we've seen from the older people we work with, who want to stay connected and look out for each other. So it's the older people who we work with are a tremendous example of how we all stay together and stay connected. So thank you very much for recognising their hard work.
Well said, David. We're very well done. And normally at this stage, as I say, we'd have called you up, we'd have given you your award, taken it for, and we will do what we can in our social media channels and in press as well to acknowledge the success that you've had, and in fact to all of our entrants as well. And we will physically get the award out to you as soon as that's practical and allowable as well. So well done, David, and well done all of our entries in the mental wellbeing category. So we're going to move on to the second of our mental wellbeing related categories, which looks at families and young people and their mental wellbeing. And we had shortlisted nominees here, which I'll go through. The first of which I'm going to give them their full title to acknowledge the work which was undertaken by all of the partnership. And it's the nominee is Forward South and their partners, the South Belfast Sure Start, the Belfast South Community Resources, the Nardos NI, and SOLAS for STEP, which stands for Seamless Transitions Through Education Program, Reconnecting Program, STEP. So, bit of a mouthful, and it's important to acknowledge everyone who's involved. Let's have a look at their video.
My name's Jane Turnbull, and I'm working with Forward South Partnership with a project called STEP, which is the Seamless Transition Through Education Program. We've been working really to support children and their families and their parents to get a better start in life. So in August, we realized there was a lot of concern, both expressed in academic research and through our own anecdotal feedback about children returning to school and the anxieties around this. So we very quickly developed what we called our Reconnecting program. And with additional funding from Radius Housing, all of our workshops, and what is really important, all of the workshops had elements of mindfulness and emotional resilience. And we allowed children to talk about their worries and anxieties and taught them how to blow their worries away, at least for a little bit. The numbers are impressive, and what we delivered in a very short space of time, I think, is fantastic. But more important is the impact of these programs. Every single child and parent who completed an evaluation form, and that's almost every single one of them, said that the content and the staff delivery was very good or good. Children felt less anxious about returning to school. Children have been able to talk about their worries and play again with other children and socialize. And they also met children and built new relationships with other kids from different cultures.
Thank you very much. And it's so important to acknowledge that all age groups were affected by COVID. I got older children, and they're in post-primary school, and maybe they were quite happy to be learning from home for those few months. But I think younger children of primary school age especially were absolutely impacted by COVID. I think this program, this project, as I said in their entry, addressed emotional well-being, give resilience tips and strategies to young people to scuff that transition of going back to school after such a long and unplanned gap, and the worries that the children might have, and it aimed to bring children and families together, including those from diverse backgrounds. And the judging panel said that STEP is an excellent example of the added value that happens when you bring together a consortium of 5 community and voluntary sector organisations who do work with disadvantaged, with vulnerable and at-risk children and young people and their families to help prepare for the return to school. And the judges were very impressed by the work that was undertaken. Our second shortlisted nominated group in this category is the Belfast South Community Resources for the LAD Talk, which stands for Lads Against Depression. So let's hear a little bit about their work.
The project we run through BSCR is called LAD Talk. It's Lads Against Depression, and it's all about promoting well-being through sport, digital skills, and opportunities to young men from South Belfast. So it ranges from taking them out to try different activities such as like golf. So we started there getting golf lessons for the last 6 weeks. So it's a new skill that they've never actually tried before. It also ranges to photography through Belfast, getting them to sort of understand their city a bit better. And then we've done like kickboxing, stuff like that, football. Creative stuff when it comes to that is like laser cutting, 3D printing, and t-shirt design. So we've done stuff in the past where we get young people to promote well-being through a design that they then put onto a t-shirt as a positive affirmation. Stuff like "You're awesome." Yeah, we get fantastic support. I must say, one of the councillors in the local area is one of my biggest fans on Instagram. Like, she's constantly saying positive stuff. The kids, I can tell they're enjoying it because they turn up early and they're keen and they engage. Like stuff like sports, like golf, you wouldn't normally get in this kind of area. This is like a working class area. They don't normally have that opportunity. And like I must say, they engaged and they actually got pretty good at golf. So I take that as a positive. They're talking to the mates a lot more. Like at the start, the first couple of weeks, it was all slabbering and stuff like that. But they start to realize these are your mates. We're all going through the same stuff currently.
Okay, that's a great video which sums up the work undertaken by the Belfast South Community Resources and their LAD Talk. And that work goes on year round and every year, but normally those sessions are delivered within a primary and secondary school setting. And of course, the lockdown and school closure meant that they had to do a quick pivot and get those activities rolled out outside of a school setting. And that's what they did. And in fact, that's what the judging panel emphasized when they reviewed and went over this particular entry. The judges were impressed with the innovative approaches and the methods which were used to bring children living in areas of high deprivation in South Belfast, and it gives them the opportunity to experience new digital, new sporting activities. We might have a new Rory McIlroy coming up here, as we saw in the video there. And all of that was aimed at supporting their physical, their social, and their mental well-being during the COVID-19 pandemic. Can I just say, folks, before moving on to the next shortlisted group, there's nice wee elements of chat appearing on the screen now, which is great to see. And we'd encourage you to share messages and some congratulations coming in there for some of the categories as well. And that's great to see. And those are the conversations which would normally take place at an event like this, perhaps over coffee or during a break. So why not keep the conversations going, and this time online? So you've all got a chat function at the bottom of your screen. We would encourage you to use that as well. Our third and our final shortlisted group in the families and young people mental wellbeing category is the New Lodge Duncairn Community Health Partnership for their remote family support services, which was rolled out, as we can now see, in response to COVID-19.
Hi, my name is Julie Jameson. I am the manager of New Lodge Duncairn Community Health Partnership.
Claire Allen, Health Development Coordinator for New Lodge Duncairn Community Health Partnership.
As Health and Living Centres, we are tasked with translating high-level policy right down to community initiatives, which is what we have done here as part of our COVID-19 response. The goal of our work here with local families and communities is really to kind of give people access to health initiatives they wouldn't maybe necessarily be aware of or understand the importance of, to get it into their everyday lives. You know, I mean, we do talk about nutrition and physical activity as a basis on which to build good emotional health and well-being. And Belfast, North Belfast, as most people will know, has been really adversely affected by the Troubles, and mental health is a huge issue in the area. So, well, I suppose we went from having maybe 40 families on our caseload at the beginning of the lockdown, and over the period of the last 9 months, we're up to 125 families.
Within my programme, we work within the schools, which has obviously been limited over the last 9 months, so it has. So we're having to change our way of how we communicate with the community and with the schools within North Belfast.
positive feedback from families, who said that they don't know how they would have done without the support given over the lockdown. It's kind of helped them to kind of feel part of the communities a bit better, because we were doing garden visits when we were allowed to. We were knocking on doors and going back to the garden gate so we could leave them parcels and things like that. So it was that kind of connection was really, really important during lockdown. And we try to work along the Take 5 initiatives, which is connection and being part of your community is a huge part of that. And we were trying to make sure that during COVID, that wasn't really missing for people. I know that the streets were quiet and things like that, but having that friendly face, just come to the door, having a 10-minute conversation and just catching up was just a really important link. And I know that people really, really appreciate that.
Fantastic work going on right across North Belfast. And one of the things that the partnership told us in their award entry was that they benefited from the less bureaucratic and the more pragmatic approach to distributing funds. And it meant that they were able to secure funding from 4 funders, which allowed them to deliver the program you just heard about: food, utility, arts, crafts to families. And it meant that they were able to accommodate new referrals that came on board that were sent their way in the course of the pandemic and the lockdown. And the judging panel acknowledged that and said that during a time of increased hardship, remote family support services very quickly escalated their services, bringing much needed financial and practical support to the most vulnerable in the community. So well done, the New Lodge and Doncurd Community Health Partnership. So that's the end of the nominees and the families and young people mental well-being. And at this stage, I report that the judges have highly commended the Belfast South Community Resources and the New Lodge Doncurd Community Health Partnership, and that the winner of this category is the Forward South for STEP program. So very well done. And if we have someone online from the Forward South for STEP program wants to say something, is that Eamon? We're going to unmute you, Eamon.
Hi, it's Jane Turnbull.
Sorry, Jane. Hello, Jane.
Hello.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you. I mean, again, it's a bit like the awards ceremonies. And based on what Eamon was saying, I would like to thank DE, Department of Education, for believing in STEP and our project. I'd love to thank Forward South Partnership for taking this on. And I must again repeat, our partners, without the experience, professionalism and commitment of South Belfast Sure Start, SOLAS, Bernardo's, NI, and Belfast South Community Resources, we couldn't do this program. The Reconnecting program was one small part of what we've been doing this year. And overall, we've engaged with about 1,000 children, young people, including those with additional needs and highly at-risk and vulnerable families. And to see it making a difference it's wonderful. Thank you very much for recognizing
Well
this.
done. Well said, Jane. Well done. Unfortunately, we're not calling up to get your photograph on your award, but we'll get that out to you. And I would just emphasize again, if anyone's sharing any of the details of winners or entries of this morning's event, don't forget our hashtag Belfast Healthy. And we're moving on to our third category, which is greening the city. And green and blue space, an integral part of the infrastructure of Belfast. I think we're a very fortunate city. We're never too far away from green space, and we have the great river which runs through our city as well. We see more and more use being made of the lagoon and the pathways and the towpath alongside it. And opportunities do now exist as well to consider how smaller green spaces can be integrated across the city. Careful planning has a key role to play in both protecting and promoting health and well-being, making urban planners part of the public health community. It's a big emphasis for Belfast Healthy Cities that there is green space and there's space for everyone who lives in this city of ours to enjoy it while living in it. So this award was designed to recognise projects which have improved the green and the blue space in urban areas across the city. That might have been planting programs and reimagining urban space for people. And of course, COVID, as we'll find out in the next minute or two, threw up some challenges, of course, but it also threw up a lot of opportunities for how we live in this, how we live, work, and spend our time in Belfast. So we'll move on to the shortlisted nominees. And the first of those is the Wildflower Alley residents and their partners, the Handy Helpers, along with Belfast City Council, for their Street Trees project. So let's have a look at the Street Trees project.
I'm Bridget Ruddy from College Park Avenue Residents Association, and this project is the Tree Pits project. Our tree pits are a sustainable urban drainage scheme, which is SUDS. So you see that they're much bigger than your average tree pit, and they are not all tarmac over. So we thought it would be a good idea to attract some wildlife like bees, birds and so on by planting out wildflowers to extend the alley really into the street and just to improve the general environment and ecology.
I work in the Students' Union, so I coordinate a program called Handy Helpers, which is a pool of students who respond to community needs through one of volunteering initiatives. So for us, what's really, really important is that, it's no secret that in this area, that there's sort of a resident bubble and a student bubble almost. So really initiatives like Handy Helpers, initiatives like the Tree Pits project really bring residents and students together in a really positive, for really, really positive initiatives and just in a really positive environment. I think whenever you yourself put the effort into beautifying the area, then you do have a stake in the area. You do actually want to keep it cleaner. You want to keep it greener because you'll be walking past the tree pits in spring and you're going to see the flowers blooming and you feel proud of what you've done.
It's to help people like ourselves to think about greening the city and making Belfast a greener and a more environmentally aware city.
A great project with very tangible, demonstrable, and almost immediate benefits as well as long-lasting benefits. And in their entry, the project told us that other outcomes were the good relations that were fostered between residents and the students who live in South Belfast Holy Land through this visible partnership that demonstrated the positive working together to create creative ways to develop the smallest of green spaces, but they still have an impact. And in fact, that's what the judges acknowledged as they went through this award, that it's, as they said in their report to us, this is small in scale, but big on impact. We were very impressed by the partnership approach and how various parts of the community came together to undertake the work, getting a mental and physical workout during the pandemic, whilst learning about each other and learning about the environment, learning about nature, and acknowledging that the short-term health and environmental benefits blend with longer-term ones in that greater sense of community partnership and fostering good community relations. So well done to the Wildflower Alley residents and their partners. The second shortlisted award in this category of greening the city is the Belfast Buildings Trust and their partners, OGU Architects, MMAS Architects, Queen's University of Belfast, the Department for Infrastructure, Belfast City Council, IMTAC, IMTAC, the Department for Communities, all came together to create, as we'll have a look at now, the Ormeau Parklet project.
Ormeau Parklet came about very much as a kind of accidental project. There were a group of us who were all commenting on potential projects to do with public space to see was there something that we could do as a quick response to help deal with some of the COVID issues, but also kind of provoke a longer term discussion about public space and green space in the city, to do a demonstration project, see what is possible, and do that very much as a collaboration with the authorities and the agencies that are responsible for public realm. So Belfast City Council, Department for Infrastructure, Department for Communities, and to do a piece of research then as part of that, to build some of the evidence about changes that are possible, how people respond to their local environment, how they adapt to it, what differences can be done. And so Queen's University are very much involved in the research element behind the project. It's basically converting 5 car parking spaces on the Ormeau Road outside 3-4 hospitality businesses to see, was there a way that we could make a more usable public space? And as a way that it is a natural gathering point for people, has been for a long time, but to kind of support the restrictions around COVID-19 and help overcome some of the challenges that come with that. I think one of the really important bits in terms of the long-term change that is hopefully possibly going to come is around how neighbourhoods are redeveloped and how there is a heart to a neighbourhood. And that very much was kind of the ethos behind the Ormeau Parklet, that the Ormeau Road, Ballinafie, Belfast in general has lots of local neighbourhoods that we need to find ways how they're going to be regenerated and reused and how they become distinctive in their own
Okay, thank you. And that was a very, again, another project which has very visible and very, I was going to say immediate benefits, but I know that it took quite a while to bring together the partnership that was involved. And it was something that it was emphasized in the award entry, that the project depends on that government, community, resident and business engagement as a collaborative test for wider civic use. And the judges were impressed with how quickly they did manage to bring together that big range of bodies, as well as buying and securing support from the local community, all with one aim in mind. They came together to make that incisive, beneficial change in the environment. Additionally, the judges were very encouraged by the attention to detail from its conception to its delivery on the ground. So well done to those behind the Ormeau Parklet. The final shortlisted entry in this category came from the Conservation Volunteers. It was their 2020 COVID response. They worked with partners Forward South, Together Northern Ireland, the Collin Neighbourhood Partnership, Foodstock, the Donegal Pass Community Forum, Keep NI Beautiful, and the Public Health Agency. So let's have a look at their work.
First things first, you just look down the barrel and give us your name and the organisation you work for.
Mary Hamilton, Conservation Volunteers. When lockdown happened, our volunteer activities ceased really suddenly. So we had to find new ways to support people and communities. And that's when we decided we could reach the community and people by getting seed packets out to them, encouraging them to grow, and there was ongoing support even after the sowing of seeds. I think it really brought home the environment, highlighting the importance of food, but also highlighting the importance of how easy it is to grow from seed, because that wee seed has the big picture of what it's going to be, and all we need to do is have faith, get what it needs, and then we reap the benefits.
Okay, thank you. So the Conservation Volunteers told us that their aim was to utilise resources to benefit vulnerable citizens during the COVID-19 lockdown, and it included doorstep deliveries of organic grow-at-home kits. It also included food parcels, providing free seeds, and aiming to initiate new interest in growing food and the physical improvements to green spaces across West Belfast. The judging panel were impressed with how the Conservation Volunteers recognised and then confronted the problem of people who were confined to their homes and the impact that was having on people's health, and in particular, of course, the more vulnerable in our society. And they responded by adapting their service. They pivoted and they used their own resources, and all of their staff worked throughout the pandemic to help others to adapt. That's the end of the description of the nominees, and I'm going to move on to the judge's decision, which was that in the highly commended category, we have the Wildflower Alley residents for the Street Trees project. So well done, Wildflower Alley. And in fact, in this category, we have two joint winners. The judges found it too difficult to make a call between the other two projects, and they have recognised as joint winners the Belfast Buildings Trust for the Ormeau Parklet and the Conservation Volunteers for their COVID-19 response. So do we have people on our virtually attending our event from let's take the Ormeau Parklet first of all. Do we have someone who wants to say a few words on behalf of the project? We're just going to unmute. It's Shane, yeah? The spotlight is searching for you, Shane. Just give us a few seconds here while you work on your script. Well done, well done, Shane.
Thank you very much, Brendan. Thank you very much to the judges and to everyone. And I suppose very particularly pay tribute to our co-winners of the Conservation Volunteers, who I know well, but particularly the thanks, I think, in terms of the Ormeau Parklet for the partnership that came together. So, it is particularly the architects and the academics from Queen's who were involved from the very outset of the project. Then also the agencies at City Council, Department for Infrastructure and Department for Communities, who all came on board very I know it took a while for us to get there, but in terms of the spirit of wanting it to happen, they came on board very quickly. So absolutely a big thank you to everyone who was involved, and to the local businesses and the local people who were involved with the community planting. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheila, and congratulations to the project. And for the conservation volunteers. Hi, Helen.
Hello there.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much. I'm in shock with the very tough competition we had. I'm well aware of the other two projects and they're absolutely amazing. I think this is great recognition for all the efforts of the staff across TCV in Belfast. You know, when COVID hit, it was a tough time for us and it was a tough time for our volunteers. Everything stopped quite suddenly. And I think it's great credit to the folk who they had a chance to work at home. They had a chance to sit in front of their laptops. They didn't. They got out there. They got stuck in. They did everything from delivering food parcels, growing kits. They lifted 250% more litter than what they normally do. And I think absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much.
Fantastic,
well done
Helen.
to the team.
Well done. Well done indeed. Well done indeed. We're going to move on to our final category, folks. I encourage you to keep the chat going within our own call here, our own virtual event, and as well as the social media. And keep in mind the hashtag Healthy Belfast. I think I may have got that wrong last time around. The way Caroline shot me a very dirty look. So the hashtag is Healthy Belfast. Our final category addressed community prosperity. And we all know that the impact of COVID-19 had on all aspects of our lives, huge impact. Essential services were interrupted. Additional stress and worry was there for people who both deliver them and rely on them. But one of the most positive impacts, and there were some positive impacts of the pandemic, and I think this morning is about celebrating the positive response that this city produced to the pandemic. And we've seen that community response from local groups, sports organizations, charities, businesses, individuals have worked cooperatively to help support their communities. And the Community Prosperity Award celebrates projects which have shown that leadership, which has helped build resilience to enhance well-being and to ensure that hard-to-reach sections of the community are not ignored, but that they are supported. And it's the kind of projects and ethos which we are very confident will outlive COVID-19 and will help to make Belfast a better city in the longer term. The first of our shortlisted nominees in this category, it's the Ligoneel Healthy Living Centre for their Ligoneel Lockdown Project. There's a lot of L's in there, but we got through it. So let's have a look at their video.
I'm Maria Burke from Ligoneel Healthy Living Centre. The ethos of the organisation is to reduce health inequalities in an area of multiple deprivation. So that really is about looking at services, programmes, projects, which the overarching is looking at people's general health and well-being. And it is about supporting families and individuals within the area as well. There are a lot of youth health related programmes, so that would be looking at lifestyle choices, it would be looking at supporting seniors within the area. It also looks at physical development, and a lot of the programmes would be in and around physical activities. A lot of our programmes had to migrate online. Obviously with the shielding process, we had to support our pensioners and the more senior and vulnerable residents in the area, and that manifested itself in over 348 food parcels going out every week to the most vulnerable. For the children who weren't in school, we knew that their parents would be struggling with home education and the social integration that children weren't in receipt of anymore. So we had horticultural packs delivered, we had bakery packs delivered, we had arts and crafts, we had art competition, hula hoop challenges, whatever we could design and facilitate, obviously within the realm of social distancing, we did. I think what we have focused a lot on is isolation and mental health and emotional well-being, especially during the COVID restrictions, more severe restrictions, and we knew that people were struggling. And I think by utilising outdoor facilities and outdoor space, it can be very therapeutic, especially for children.
So lovely to see the children utilising the green space that in their immediate area. North Belfast, I must say, was looking very well in that video. The Ligoneel Healthy Living Centre told us that part of their aim was around identifying how the community could stay safe and stay connected throughout the pandemic. And I think that's a bit of a theme which is run throughout the different projects and indeed across the categories that we've dealt with and looked at this morning, helping people stay connected in a difficult time. And the judging panel, when they looked at this entry, highlighted the far-reaching impact and the innovative and positive approach of Ligoneel to identify and to address the needs that were on their doorstep in their own community. So well done to Ligoneel Healthy Living Centre. Our second shortlisted entry in this category comes from WISPA. Now, in times past, WISPA to me was a bar of chocolate that you can always eat too many of, but in this case, it's to do with the Women in Sport and Physical Activity for their FAB. That's the Fitness, Attitude and Belief program and their Ladies in Lockdown project. Let's have a look at WISPA.
Hi, my name's Neve. I'm the program coordinator here at WISPA, Women in Sport and Physical Activity. Yeah, WISPA is currently funded under the National Lottery Community Fund to deliver our FAB project. The FAB project is our Fitness, Attitude and Belief project. We're all about getting women up and getting them active to support their physical and mental health and sort of provide them with as many opportunities as possible to get active. Well, this year, like, you know, many others, our sort of services came to a bit of a halt with COVID. We had to sort of adapt and review our services and look at the way we deliver our project. So we worked closely with one of our coaches, Claire Grattan, and she helped us design and develop the Ladies in Lockdown home plan. The home plan was a 4-week home plan with the idea of completing 12 sessions at home, 30-minute workouts, and it sort of provided a sense of structure and a sense of belonging sort of for the women during the day. The lockdown plan was 30-minute home workouts. They registered for the plan via our social media channels. They then downloaded the plan, and with that they got demonstration videos, private Facebook support group. They completed the sessions at home. There was little to no equipment. It was totally free, and it allowed them to stay active at home, do it in their own time, fit it around their own routines, and it really allowed the women to, you know, stay on top of their own sort of physical health, and it helped them mentally throughout this sort of hard time. The benefits of it were great. You know, the women who spoke to us after and evaluated the program, and they said the beauty of it was they could do it at home. They fitted it into their own daily routine. You know, many of our women, they either live on their own, they're single, they have kids, they have their own struggles, and the sort of beauty of it was it gave them a wee bit of structure. It helped them sort of stay on top of their day, motivated them to get out of bed and sort of get on with the day and give them a sense of purpose. And it helped them through, you know, a hard time when, you know, there was very little to get up for. Like many other community organisations, sort of delivery's been hard this year. We've really had to sort of get creative in the way we deliver things, and I think we're just looking forward to hopefully next spring, fingers crossed, all being well, we'll get out and get back to face-to-face delivery and seeing the women that we love working with.
What a fantastic project. And I think the links between physical activity and mental well-being are very well established, both anecdotally and of course in academic research as well, and that we will all have heard about. I was exhausted looking at that clip with the ladies doing their workouts, so very well done. And the judging panel were very impressed with how the WISPA project took a flexible and an innovative approach to delivering their services. They dealt with the problems of COVID, they identified a solution, they rolled it out, and they connected women during this time of unprecedented uncertainty. Our third nominated shortlisted project in this category is the Council for the Homeless for their Fair Share NI program. Let's have a look at that.
John, tell us what you do here at Fair Share and how long you've been doing it.
I think I've been here for about 10 years since it opened. I can't remember how long exactly.
And what does Fair Share do?
We basically take food that is maybe overproduced or the shelf date is too short in supermarkets. We take surplus food and we take it in here and we basically package it up and give it out to people in need. I think there's more need than ever, isn't there? I think we've got a greater volume of food now because of COVID, and we've actually been sending out the food in much bigger quantities as well, which has been quite a challenge for volunteers, but we've been up for it.
Before the pandemic, there would have been 10 or 11 of us working here, but because of the pandemic, we've had to cut the numbers and stuff down. Making the orders, it's a lot more harder now, but it's enjoyable. You know, it's going to make a good cause.
Everybody's very grateful. Volunteers are very happy to be doing a worthwhile job, and the people who receive our food are so grateful to receive it. I remember sometimes a person said to me, it's like Santa. It's like Santa delivering food because it's always very welcome.
another fantastic project, and some of the facts and figures that were contained within the entry which the Council for Homeless and Fair Share and I submitted to Belfast Healthy Cities included the fact that they supplied 110 tonnes of fresh, frozen and ambient foods to 48 charities and food banks throughout Belfast, and they reckon that was enough for 260,000 meals. I think that's very, very, when you break it down into a practical thing that we can all identify with, 260,000 meals provided to the people of Belfast. And the judges regarded this project as an excellent one, which continued to provide vital services during the pandemic. And the service, by providing food parcels to the most vulnerable, allowed an essential need to be catered for and provided comfort and food security to people across Belfast. So well done to Fair Share and I. The final shortlisted entry in this category of community prosperity is the Forth River Inter-Community Group for their project, Moving On, Moving Up. And let's see them moving on and moving up.
Moving Up, Moving On, or MUMO, is a project based in Forth Spring Inter-Community Group. We work in partnership with 2 local primary schools, so 2 schools on either side of it, one state school, Springfield Primary, and one CCMS school, which is St Clair's Primary School. And we provide whole family support. So we run a programme of activities. We have a mixture of in-school activities to support children in school. So that will be activities such as team working in teams, friendship groups, Lego therapy, lunchtime nurture groups, literacy support, numeracy support, reading groups, supporting with reading groups, that sort of work. And since lockdown, we've been running Zumba class, Pilates class, legs, bumps and tums class. We've done a couple of box fit classes, and they've mostly been on Zoom, but when we were able to, we had 4 weeks of activity in the building as well. Had very positive feedback. Yeah, I mean, people saying things like, during the first lockdown, they said things like, it gave me a structure to the day. It made me exercise. I've exercised more now than I did before lockdown.
Apologies, folks. We lost the picture on that video there, but we felt it important to let the video run, so in order that the project themselves could explain what they're about and how they go about their work. We might try and get that video back to show it before the morning ends, because we do want to acknowledge all of the groups who have entered the awards. But it was important to hear about MUMO and the supportive, the holistic service that they provide for families, and the 2 local schools, Springfield and St Clair's Primary School. Working in wards which are amongst the most deprived in Northern Ireland, probably the most deprived across these islands. And the judging panel found that the project provided a range of essential and supportive activities which were delivered in a flexible way during COVID-19, a time of great need. So well done to the Forth River Inter-Community Group on their MUMO project. And again, you can tell, having heard from 4 projects, what a difficult job that the judging panel had. And in this case, the judging panel have decided that in the highly commended category, they recognise both WISPA and the Forth Spring Inter-Community Group. And in this category, again, the judges found it too difficult to split the other entries, and we have joint winners of the Community Prosperity Award, and they are the Ligoneel Healthy Living Centre for the Ligoneel Lockdown and the Council for the Homeless for their Fair Share NI project. So I think Maeve is on the call, and we can hear from Maeve. She's there from Fair Share.
Thanks, Brendan. Sorry.
Well done, Maeve.
Yeah, no, thanks for the award. I'm really pleased with it. And thanks to everybody at Healthy Cities. Congratulations also to Ligoneel. Just a huge thanks to all our funders, stakeholders, the kind of all the food industry partners that we work with. I want to say just a huge hello to, I know that Declan McCullough, our operations manager, is on the call. Siobhan Rox, who is our volunteer coordinator, and most importantly to our 2 volunteers on the call, Jared and Sammy. And just on a very serious note, I think volunteers are absolutely the bedrock of what Fair Share does. They are the lifeblood of Fair Share, and we had over COVID, they've really stepped up to the challenge. They were in the whole time. We remained open the whole time. and we were getting that the food shipped out to charities across Belfast. So huge congratulations to the team, and I hope everyone has maybe a glass of champagne tonight.
Well
Thanks.
said. Well said.
Thanks, Brendan.
Well said, Neil. Thank you. And it's so important to acknowledge the work that volunteers carry out, not just, of course, in the Fair Share project, but right across all of our projects, right across Belfast, right across Northern Ireland, the work that's delivered by volunteers. So Jared and Sammy, maybe representing the volunteers that are involved with all of the nominations and all of the groups that we've talked about today, take a bow as well. And let's not forget Declan and Siobhan as well. I think from the Ligoneel Centre, are we able to hear from Maria? Are we able to bring her in? No. I think it's a matter of identifying Maria's the name that's on her screen and then allowing her to speak. But oh, here we are. Oh, you are there, Maria. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, Brendan. Thanks to everybody on the panel that voted us, and thanks to Fair Share as well. It's been an amazing experience, and just to reiterate some of the things that I suppose a lot of the nominees in different categories have come up with is that it's been a very difficult time this year for a lot of the programs and projects to continue. And we've had to do it in many a different way this year, but it's amazing to think that we've actually been acknowledged for the work that we have been undertaking, along with everybody else that has been nominated in the different categories. So thank you so much from all of us. There's Jared. I'm swinging around the camera.
Hello, Jared.
And we have Kieran in the corner as well. Nicola can't be with us today, but on behalf of the team, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, we've come to the end of the formal award session of the morning, but since we have you all here, we didn't want to just whiz through the awards and then say goodbye. We thought it might be worthwhile. You might have questions that you want to ask other panelists. You might have questions for other
congratulations
for other nominees as well. Keep on sharing your comments too. Keep up your social media activity as well. But I am going to bring in now Belfast Healthy Cities is part of a European Healthy Cities network, all working under the auspices of the World Health Organization. And there are healthy cities across Europe, across the UK, across Ireland. And we thought it would be useful to bring in one of our friends and colleagues, in this case from the Cork Healthy Cities Organization. So is Denise with us on the line?
Yeah,
hello, Denise.
I'm here. Good morning.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome virtually to Belfast, Denise, all the way from Cork.
Thank you very much.
And we would love to hear, Denise, even over the next few minutes, about some of the work you're doing around how Cork has responded to COVID and how Cork has maybe dealt with some of the issues that you will have heard flagged up and described by some of our nominees today.
Thanks very much. I'm very honoured to be invited and humbled actually, because Belfast has always been a city that we attempt to emanate. We're not as well resourced or as experienced in healthy cities as you are, and I found this morning really inspiring. And I'm struck by, I suppose, the common responses that we have across the country. Across all the various cities in Europe to COVID. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we've done in Cork, if that's okay. I'll be very brief. Just in terms of our age-friendly programme, I suppose we had to respond quick, as I can see a lot of your projects did in Belfast as well. And we just developed some exercise booklets for older adults, and we've just done a needs assessment now with older adults to see how we can support them to get through the winter. And we were quite astounded by the response to that, and the fact that older adults in Cork City anyway certainly don't want to engage online. They're missing the physical contact and the personal contact that they were used to, and they want something to look forward to. So we're taking all that on board. We've also done some greening projects in the city, and I'll just take you through how we managed to keep that going during COVID. We had an area, it's called Park Owen, which was an area of a lot of antisocial behaviour, and we'd been working for the last year before COVID struck on developing, I suppose, a community-based response to managing that space. So during COVID, I suppose it came into its own in that we were able to offer outdoor classes, Tai Chi classes, gardening groups, because there was no lock on this facility. I know earlier somebody mentioned, you know, community gardens were closed. It was the same in the Republic. All the community gardens, the gates were locked up, whereas this was an open public space, and people could continue to garden away safely and do activities. The parklets, I saw the Ormeau parklet as well, which is amazing. There was a parklet set up in this area about 12 months ago. And during COVID-19, I suppose what we realized was the importance of this, because people couldn't gather indoors and people obviously are looking for more outdoor activities. So what was announced in September is that 10 new parklets are going to be put in place across the city, because it's such a huge success here on Douglas Street as part of the Green Spaces and the Transport and Mobility Forum. We've also offered a monthly Greening Our City webinar, and there's huge interest in this. We were astounded, actually. I think people have really are really engaging now in greening and green spaces. So that's been working out really well, just to get some ideas about how we can green our city and try to activate that. We had a beehive on the roof of a college in the city centre, and you can see there that there was honey produced. We got the Lord Mayor to visit it before, again, COVID struck, but that beehive has been operating away during COVID, and we're looking forward to a new harvest again. And down at the bottom here, we've got food forests on public spaces. So we're looking at residential areas and how we can support residents to grow food in common areas. And you can see there in the last week, huge interest in that and huge engagement from residents. We also designed a tree trail because we were aware that we couldn't do any activities or events during COVID. So what we did was design a tree trail that anybody could just download and utilize. And this was part of a bigger project called the Playful Paradigm, which is a European project that we're connected in through Healthy Cities with the city of Udine. And basically what we've done is we've tried to encourage play, and we've offered play packs to families across the city during lockdown, and we'll offer activity packs for older adults now as well. But something that I know is of huge interest to us in Healthy Cities is, you know, somebody mentioned it earlier, I think it was Joan, about the importance of connecting with planners and engineers. And we found that placemaking is a fantastic tool for that. This is an area in Cork City which was overrun by cars, the marina. And as you can see, it's a very beautiful space. The top photo there would show you along the river. And what we did as part of the placemaking training is we didn't say we were closing the road. We said we were opening it to play. But what we did do was get it closed for cars. And what has evolved during the last few months is that that's become permanently closed now to cars. And it's a fantastic space where a lot of families and people of varying abilities and young children can be seen cycling on the road and making use of it. So the playful placemaking is how we started it. We did some training on placemaking, and now we're going to look at how we can use the river as a space for engaging. So very exciting times. I suppose it's all about, you know, working back and building back better is what was the theme of the WHO Healthy Cities in the last 3 days. We're all being so innovative and creative across the cities across Europe. It's very inspiring to hear what's going on in Belfast and to learn from you all. I think what really came across to me this morning is the real commitment that you have to partnership, and all of the organisations and all of the projects that were presented this morning. That partnership and connection was really, really strong. And that's something we can certainly learn from. And we're delighted to partner with Belfast in the Healthy Cities agenda across Europe. So thanks for the opportunity to present and for inviting me here today.
Thanks very much, Denise. And isn't it striking how similar your projects are to ours, your issues are to ours, even the parklet about utilising green space and you mentioned the partnership approach, Denise. If you don't mind me asking just one quick question before we sign off. You did see this morning the number of our groups who submitted an award entry in partnership with sometimes multiple other groups, which I think is so encouraging. Does that sort of partnership exist in Cork as well? Do you work in partnership with local government and other charitable or other third sector groups as well?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have a huge commitment to partnership, and sometimes it amuses me when you, especially at an award scheme, because it's about trying to name every single
Yes.
partner and making sure that you acknowledge everyone. And I know when people came in to accept their awards this morning, I could see that, because it's so important. I mean, alone we can achieve a little bit, but I think together we can really make changes. And I think the other point to make, and something that was very obvious this morning, was that volunteers and the community sector really and truly are the bedrock of our communities and of a healthy city. And I think the COVID response, without volunteers and without the community sector, would have been lacking in a huge way. I don't think we would have gotten the response that we got without it. So we truly value partnership. We're always trying to build it. It can be challenging and it can be difficult, but I think it's really important when it works out well. It can be hugely effective. So
That's great.
yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Denise. And from the Lagan to the Lee, we wish you all the best as we hopefully come out of COVID. And thanks for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you very much.
We're going now to bring in Danny Cooper. If Danny can get ready, just to explain. Hiya, Danny. Every year, Belfast Healthy Cities runs an Explorers Award, and we've said already, and Joan has emphasised too, that Belfast is part of a European-wide Healthy Cities collective. And we always seek to learn from each other, to share experience. People come to Belfast to see how we've delivered as a healthy city, and we are able to at times send people to other European cities. So every year we have an Explorers Award. I'll explain a little bit more about that after we hear from Danny, who was the winner of the Explorers Award in 2019. And it meant that Danny works for Disability Sport NI. He travelled to Utrecht in the Netherlands, to Hanover in Germany, where he looked at, well, I'm going to let Danny tell you what he looked at. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you everyone for having me today. Really appreciate it. As Brendan said, my name is Danny Cooper. I'm from Disability Sport Northern Ireland, and I'm the Wheelchair Basketball Development Officer. So I look after the sport here domestically in Northern Ireland, look after clubs, policy, competition. But before I go into that, a bit about Disability Sport and I. We work with people with disabilities to improve their lives through sport and physical activity and physical recreation. And we encourage everyone to be active and be the best. Before I go on, I'd like to highlight our social media in the top right-hand corner. Definitely give us a like, give us a share, see what we're doing. We're a broad organisation, do a lot of programmes, and to cover that in 5-10 minutes would be near impossible. So definitely give us a like, give us a share, and see what we're doing. In terms of myself, as I mentioned there, Wheelchair Basketball Development Officer in Northern Ireland, and look after the clubs and various things that go on within the sport. But actually, the reason why I'm presenting this year rather than last year is a new role happened, which was actually on the day of the awards, which was I became a father, so little girl's now nearly 1. But that's the reason for missing. So I thought I'd get that one in before anyone asked me why wasn't I here last year when we were face to face and not on Zoom. And it might explain why I'm a little bit more tired looking than I would have been this time last year. Just in terms of wheelchair basketball in Northern Ireland, to give you a bit of context, wheelchair basketball itself is a fast-paced team game, 5-a-side. It's played by people with physical disabilities or long-term injuries, predominantly from the waist down. There's a common misconception that comes along with that, which is that wheelchair basketball is just for wheelchair users. That's not the case. We have people with physical disabilities who are ambulant, who play the sport. Likewise, we have players who don't have a disability, who may be a family member, and we see that quite frequently, and have that integration with playing alongside a family member, jumping in a chair, coming to training. It's quite a common theme. Just in terms of that second point there, the hashtag Come On Play is a big part of our work. It's an online campaign that we use to actually address the misconception around the sport and open up the sport and make people aware of who classifies or qualifies to play the sport. We also have a big piece of work around working with healthcare professionals. We have very good, strong medical links, and that's key to developing sport in Northern Ireland. Work with a lot of physios and OTs in a load of different capacities, whether that's presentations like this, or whether that's actually we're booking a sports hall and getting physios and OTs into a chair to experience a sport, so that when they're in practice, they have an awareness of what the sport is and how it may be of benefit. to any of their clients or people who attend their sessions. In Northern Ireland currently, there's 5 wheelchair basketball clubs, which, if compared to some of the bigger sports, isn't much. However, if we look at the growth in the last 3 years, we've grown from 1 to 5, and I think if COVID-19 hadn't happened this year, I'd have probably been coming with a bit more fill side with at least another club on there. So the sport is growing, it's developing, it's in a very exciting stage. And that's why this award was really important for myself and for us as a wheelchair basketball team, just to see what other countries are doing, but also to take into account anything that we could do in the future to aid that growth. As I say, we're in a really good phase and a really positive phase, but I think we're conscious that because the sport's new and fresh, there's a lot of vigour and interest around it, and we want to maintain that moving forward, and we don't want to lose that. So that's why the trip was important. So the trip itself, a little bit Indiana Jones-esque, I guess, but it took me from Belfast to Amsterdam and down to Utrecht, which was my first spot, as Brendan said. Spent 2.5 days there, then over to Hanover, and that was my second spot for 2.5 days before coming back. Brilliant opportunity, great chance to travel, which I love doing anyway, but to do that with work and to take on board some of these lessons and learning pieces was phenomenal. Before we went, we had to kind of assess what did we know, and to be honest, the answer was not a lot of what was happening in these two countries. We knew that disability sport organisations and sessions existed. We knew that wheelchair basketball also existed and was played in both countries. And then we also knew there was a couple of differences between the countries. So we knew that in Holland, for example, there was a very successful women's team who just won the European Championships. But we also knew it wasn't a professionalised sport. Whereas in Germany, it is a professional sport with that professional team, professional players. So it was very interesting to see the contrast between the two areas, and that was why within the trip we encompassed the two areas to contrast that compared to what we have here. Our knowledge base here predominantly is the United Kingdom, of course, but also what's being played in the Republic. So it was great for us to get out there and see what other countries were doing and try and broaden that, which I can positively say happened. In terms of what we were looking for, these were kind of my key questions, the key 7 questions I went with, kind of coupled up. So it was to find out how disability sport and wheelchair basketball was facilitated and organised. I was really keen to look into that healthcare link and whether what we were doing was very unique or whether it was standard practice. Linked to that is an education. Quite often we've worked with physios and OTs predominantly over schools. We haven't ruled schools out completely, not all. We work with teachers as well, but we would work with physios and OTs on a more regular basis. And I wanted to see if that was the case there and what the situation within the education system there is. Looking at barriers to participation, we know quite generally what they are, but we wanted to see if there was any different ones or any ones that we hadn't foreseen potentially going down the track. We wanted to look at the role of players, coaches, volunteers and commit members and see what the situation there was. We know that in the UK, and a few of the nominees have mentioned this, that volunteers are a massive part to make things happen, and particularly in sport that's common. And we do see people within our sport who are actually not just one of these roles, but maybe 2, 3 or even 4, playing and coaching on a Saturday and a commit meeting and volunteering within the club. And we did want to try and avoid that volunteer burnout. So we were trying to find out a bit about that. And then finally, we wanted to look at facilities. As sportsmen and women, we're obsessed with looking at sports halls, how great the facilities are. But obviously for us as well as a physical disability sport, looking at access, changing rooms, parking, different facilities, and the offer there and how it compares to what we use and what we utilise. In terms of who we visited, there was a range of partners I worked with in that 5-day period. And if I work from left to right, in the top left-hand corner, we have the Hoogstraat, which is a rehab centre in Utrecht, which is a really interesting place. It's not really anything that we have here in Northern Ireland. I suppose the closest thing we would have to that is Musgrave Spinal Unit. But it's a rehab centre, and I'll talk about that in a minute and what they do. Below that is the Utrecht Council. We work with them quite closely and spoke to those guys on a couple of occasions to talk about the policy side of things, of disability sport and sport in general. In the middle, SC Antelope, which is a wheelchair basketball club in Utrecht, to see how they function. And then below them is the rainbow-coloured logo, Sport Utrecht, which is the governing body for sport, mainstream sport and parasport in the city. Over in Hanover, I spent time with Hanover United, which is a professional Wales basketball team. And then to the right of that, which is actually interlinked, is the German Paralympic Association. The way that they function is on a more regional basis, and with Hanover being in Lower Saxony, the regionalised basis means that each area has one Paralympic centre, and that's where Hanover United train out of, and some of the players actually live out of. But in that site, we would have power table tennis players and other sports, with a judo team there while I was there. And it was a really interesting element to see that side of the professionalisation of the sport, but also the way that power sports run at a national level in Germany. So in terms of key findings, there was a few things that came away, and actually it was about 44 pages of notes, which was brilliant, but it was also very challenging to try and condense that. So these are my key findings in broad terms. A couple of points just to highlight. If we look at the Netherlands first, look at Holland first. Point number one there on the rehab centres. Very interesting element and very different, whereby when somebody acquires a disability, moving through the hospital process and then moving into a separate off-site area whereby, accommodation is provided, but actually where sport's provided and coaches are on site, equipment's on site. Around the Hoogstraat Rehabilitation Centre, for example, there's a moat type setup which is for para canoeing, so participants can engage with that sport and then move inside the wheelchair basketball, avail of bikes and a range of other activities. Point number four actually links around education, and the people that I spoke to in Holland noted that more children with physical disabilities are into mainstream education, but they did note that there's challenges there in terms of integration into PE, which was a trend that we will be familiar with, and they echoed that. And then the last thing for Holland that I really picked up was point number 6. There's a development of an app within the city, within Utrecht, whereby physios and OTs are essentially getting people who visit them to sign up to the app, and clubs are signing as well, so they can follow the progression of people and their engagement in sport, which was really interesting and a very expensive way of working, but a really interesting one. Then in Germany, point number 1, there was note there that the links with the healthcare professionals is not as prominent in Germany. It's something that we feel like they want to improve on, and something that they actually thought that we were doing better. Point number 2 was another interesting point around able-bodied players. AB players is the in-game term, and how it was seen as the norm for people to play wheelchair basketball just as a sport. The head coach of Germany, Martin Kluck, who I met there, actually gave his own experience of playing the running game, and then as a teenager making the conscious decision to stop playing the running game and move into the wheelchair game permanently, and that was his passion, his love. And then finally, point number 3 was actually mirroring what I heard in the Netherlands. There's more children with physical disabilities in mainstream education, but there is an integration challenge there in PE, and that was being seen at club level, and the effects of that were being seen for sure. So in terms of the impact on the trip of my work moving forward, I pulled together a few keywords that came out of my meetings, and there were some really interesting things that came out, and things that have definitely influenced my year, despite COVID this year, and shaped the way that I'm working. But a few key things there, obviously the healthcare links, the professionalisation of the sport, but partnership working, which was absolutely critical and really encompasses what this award has been about for me, is building those relationships. I'm still in email contact with the guys that I visited over a year ago now, talking about various things and updating, which is fantastic. Volunteers and coaching and looking after our people who make the sport happen was also a really prominent piece of information that came out of it, which reinforced my belief and view that we look after the people who are giving their time and their effort to make our sport happen and make our sport tick across our clubs. Obviously, we want to see the sport grow and develop, and we would love you to follow us on that journey. So the ways you can do that is by following our Disability Sport and I main Facebook page, but we also have a wheelchair basketball specific Facebook page. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Come On Play campaign, which can be typed into Facebook, and all of our clubs use a hashtag. So if anyone's interested in seeing a bit more information on what our clubs are doing, what the sport's about, feel free to have a look at that. And just to finish off, before I hand over to Brendan, I want to say a massive thank you to Disability Sport and I for allowing me to go to Belfast Healthy Cities, for giving me the award in the first instance and enabling me to go. and also for everyone today for listening to me. I really, really appreciate it, and appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Danny, and thanks for that description of your trip and the findings that emerged from it. And I think one of the most important things you said is that you have retained contact with some of the people you met when you were over there. I think that's very important. And I would just like to say as well, folks that are still with us, that we, notwithstanding COVID, we intend to, it is our plan to have a 2021 Belfast Healthy Cities Explorer Award. We intend to launch it in March to call for entries. And the hope is that a trip to a European city will be allowed to take place in the autumn of next year. So please keep an eye. You've heard from Danny the sort of things and how diverse that the study visits can be. So please keep an eye out for that in March of next year. We will, of course, keep you all informed as we do roll out the Healthy Cities Explorer Award for 2021. And now on to our last speaker. I'm going to invite the chair of Belfast Healthy Cities, Dr. David Stewart, to share a few thoughts with us. David.
Thanks, Brendan. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we are. We're hearing you.
Okay, thank you. That's great, thank you. Can I just say this has been an extremely inspiring morning. I think I've been watching the videos, I've been listening to people talking about the projects, and although this is our first virtual award ceremony, I think it undoubtedly has shown how all the organizations we have seen presenting their work this morning have risen to the challenges of this really challenging and difficult year. But what we've seen is that in spite of the difficulties and challenges, I think every one of the projects presented have demonstrated how they've been very committed to keep the work going, but not just to keep it going, to extend their programs of work to really meet the needs of all the people that they work with and the communities that they've been working with this year. So on my own behalf, on behalf of the Board of Healthy Cities, can I first of all just give many congratulations to everyone who presented this morning, whether you were highly commended or you were the winner of the award in each section. I think you've all demonstrated really your really superb commitment to working for the communities across Belfast. This has been a challenging and, as we said, a difficult year. But with the challenge, I think it does bring the opportunity for thinking of new ways of doing things. And I think we've seen that demonstrated in the projects this morning. I'm not going to go over any of the projects again, but just from our work in Healthy Cities, I hope we will continue to be able to work with your different organizations, to link with your organizations. The rate, if we listed all the partners that were listed this morning, it really shows just how many organizations from the community sector, from the voluntary sector, from the statutory sector, from the business sector, who all can play a part in improving the health and well-being of our population in Belfast. Can I also thank Denise for her presentation this morning. One of the big strengths of being part of the Healthy Cities movement is the links we make with other cities in Europe, and they are no stronger than the links we have with cities here on the island of Ireland, and also in particular as well with yourselves in Cork, Denise. Again, from your presentation, I think, as Brendan mentioned, it really demonstrated how the work that's happening in Cork and the work that's happening in Belfast, there's a lot of parallels between the work and really the benefits that we have of maintaining your work. As you had mentioned, Denise, we've just had the 3-day international conference. And again, many of the things that we heard presented this morning, there are parallels in other cities across Europe. But we look forward to maintaining our friendship with yourselves in Cork and our partnership as we go into the future. Danny, I think first of all, many congratulations on the new arrival a year ago. I think you know that we were delighted here a year ago as we were coming to the award ceremony of the new arrival into your family. But I think today in your presentation, you give us a clear indication of how you really made, I suppose, as much use as possible of one of our Explorer Awards, and the potential really actually that how you showed going to 2 different places, learning from what's happening, bringing that back. I mean, that was excellent. And I think hopefully that will have stimulated some of the people listening this morning to think about, is there an area that you as one of the people working in Belfast would like to know more about what's happening in another part of the European network? The European network is getting wider as well as, I suppose, in terms of numbers of cities, and increasingly the cities in the European network now go very far to the east in Russia, and so it's not the area just covered that we might traditionally say of Europe. It's really covering right across into the Kazakhstans and Turkmenistans and so on. So there are many places that are doing interesting, exciting things in Europe. And if you in your organization would be interested in maybe learning more about what's happening and bringing that learning back to Belfast in the way that Danny has demonstrated this morning, please look out for the Explorer Awards and submit an application. As I said, this is kind of our first virtual award ceremony. I have to say again, sitting just watching and listening this morning, it was an extremely slick operation. Can I just say, I think that having just been listening in over the last couple of days, 3 days to the WHO, running virtual conferences or virtual events is not without its challenges. And I have to say this morning, I think how everyone who was involved, the people who came in from organizations to talk about your work after awards were presented from our presenters, it really was an extremely well organized virtual event. I'm not saying we should run a virtual events when we have an opportunity to meet in person. I think we should always take the opportunity to meet in person. But I think we have shown how in this, again, challenging year, how using technology does allow us to really still communicate and work effectively across organizations. And in particular, as we work maybe across countries, or you want to learn about what's happening across organizations, now we have technologies like Zoom. We do have the potential to actually, as we've demonstrated this morning, the ways of keeping people linked. So can I thank Roy and his team, who have been not mentioned, I think, possibly this morning, but behind the scenes, they have really kept the technology operating, and it really been able to bring all the videos, all the presenters, everything working extremely well. Thanks for that. Again, an event like this doesn't happen without a lot of behind the scenes work. Can I also thank all the people who are involved in the judging panel for their work. Again, it was all done virtually. Can I thank the team who put on this morning, but in particular the team from Belfast Healthy Cities. Caroline has had a big role in playing this, and the other members of the team. And can I thank Joan as our chief executive, who has kind of overseen, I think, the whole operation. Can I thank you, Brendan, for your work as Master of Ceremonies. After a while this morning, you forget you're not in the room with everybody, and you sort of think people can see you, which of course that's a strange thing. But it's a new way of working. I think we've demonstrated this morning how effective it's happening. But really, this morning is about everyone who applied to to have an award, everyone who's been nominated, who's rather highly commended, the people who have won awards this morning or were highly commended this morning. Thank you for all the work that you are doing for our population of Belfast. This is hopefully a big week in the start of the fight back against COVID, as we had the first vaccines given in Belfast earlier this week. And I know the vaccine programme is hopefully going to now roll out effectively over the next few weeks. And hopefully next year we'll be all able to get together again, physically again. But just thanks for an inspiring and excellent morning. And can I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a very safe and prosperous New Year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you. Folks, we're at the end of the morning. We're at the end of this morning's event. I just want to emphasize that we will, of course, get the, if I can get that the right way around, we will get the awards, as you can see here. They're ready to go. We'll get those out to you. And it's actually our intention to gather all of you together at a time when we can do so with the Lord Mayor, perhaps in a socially distanced way. We can get a group photograph and you'll be able to pick up your awards and your certificates as well. So we will get that sorted out for you. This morning's event has been recorded. It will be uploaded to our website, Belfast Healthy Cities. If anybody wants their own copy sent to them for their own purposes, we can do that. In addition, the videos which were recorded with each of the shortlisted entries, we can email those out in an MP4 format, or my more technically gifted colleagues can send them out in other formats that might be available as well. I want to re-emphasize the thanks to Peter and Roy from Focus AV, who absolutely kept the show on the road today, and to all the team at Belfast Healthy Cities, my own colleague Brendan Scott, who was involved in recording the videos. It was a very wide team production. So even though we're virtually, those of us that are here in the room will give you all a round of applause and say thanks for attending, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you very much.